What's up everyone, McJibbin back with another reaction video. We're going to be doing not a salmonella, I'll do another one later today or tomorrow, but a History Matters video. And why wasn't the British Empire ruled by a British emperor? Let's do it.
10 years of yellow stains with Colgate Optic White
10
Renewal.
years.
When someone rules an empire, they normally take the title emperor or empress. Yet, despite having a pretty chunky empire, the British monarchs were never styled as the British emperor or empress. Which raises the question, why? Why wasn't the British Empire ruled over by a British emperor? Now, it's important to note that most emperors didn't simply convert their title from that of a king. Many had adopted it on top of their previous titles, and others did so after major change in government. Furthermore, it often claims to be the continuation of a previous imperial title.
When I think of the British Empire, like the peak, like big boy British Empire, don't mess with us, we're so much stronger than everyone else, like combined probably, is Victorian era, probably late Victorian era. Definitely pre-World War I, because Germany was really creeping in the late 1800s. So I'd say around like 1880-ish, where the U.S. is definitely coming up. They're not quite a world power. Maybe they are a world power in 1880, but definitely not on the level of Great Britain. And I know Germany and Prussia were full head of steam coming up there. Trying to think of anyone else. The Ottomans, they really aren't on the same level. So I really think of, when I think of the British Empire, I think of Queen Victoria. So I don't know if the Empress was really needed, the title, but
Britain never had any of this, and so there was no pretext to change the royal title when their role and the type of government that they led was the same as always. In fact, when there was a major change by the monarch, that of Henry VIII declaring England's separation from the Catholic Church, it was written into law that England was effectively from that point onwards an empire, and that Henry and all of his successors would carry the rights and status of emperors but would simply use the title of king instead. Another reason was somewhat more particular to Britain. You see, after the 17th century, the British developed an extreme allergic reaction to absolute monarchy, and a title like Emperor screams, "I'm a king of kings and thus in charge and won't be sharing much power with anyone," which to Parliament was a no-no. Another reason was that Britain itself wasn't seen as being some multi-ethnic empire in the same way as Austria-Hungary was, but in the eyes of its rulers, Britain was a nation of nations who were all equal, theoretically at least, in practice not so much. This is one of the reasons why George III, when offered the title of British Emperor in 1801, refused it, and another was because he was an elector of the Holy Roman Empire at this point, and so an emperor electing another emperor whom he would hold some allegiance to was just a bit silly. This wasn't the last time that the topic of imperial titles would come up. You see, as of the 1870s, there were a lot of emperors in Europe, and the title of emperor outranks that of king or queen, which upset Britain's Queen Victoria, who didn't want to be seen as everyone's inferior. At this point, a monarch adopting an imperial title with respect to Britain was unacceptable, and so the sitting Prime Minister, Benjamin Disraeli, offered to give a different imperial title, that of Empress of India. The reason why this was okay was that 1. India was the crown jewel of the empire, and the one which Britain was most proud of. 2. It was made up of many smaller kingdoms and principalities, and so the title could maintain the implication that it meant King of Kings. And 3. India and its people weren't seen as being equal to those of Britain, and so absolute rule over them was just fine. But why not extend it to the rest of the empire? Well, much like Britain, places like Canada and Australia had the same anti-authoritarian position. And as for the rest of the empire, well, it wasn't seen as...
So basically, this is really fascinating, and it explains a lot. I figured maybe it just, the history of Great Britain and during the 1800s with Victoria, where she is undoubtedly the highest, if not one of the highest, and shouldn't really care about the Empress title to compete with those in Europe. But obviously they have less, how do I say this, less conflict with having a title that is clearly a smack in the face to people who aren't in your surroundings, whether it be Northern Ireland and Scotland, who are going to be pretty upset. Instead, you say you're the Empress of India, where everyone thinks that they're generally inferior, and so it's more of an acceptable title, and so she kind of has her cake and eats it too. She's like, no, I'm not emperor over, other English-looking people, whether it be in, the British Isles or in Australia or Great Britain. And there seems to be a common theme of, obviously with the United States not in it anymore, the British Empire at this point, almost 100 years out of it. A big thing is that they feel like everyone in Great Britain kind of feels superior to people in the States, and I think that was a big catalyst to everything, just like being snubbed by people who are living in England. And so, hey, why not do that in a place like India where nobody's going to really poo-poo the idea that we're better than them racially or whatnot. So, talking too much on this video.
As being prestigious enough to warrant the title of emperor. There was still opposition to the title from many liberal politicians, but it was brought into force in 1876, and Victoria's successors would all thereafter be emperors of India until its independence in 1947, which is why Britain and the British Empire didn't have an emperor, but only one part of it, India, did.
Just kind of... So they have Cyprus, they have Egypt, they have Israel, Jordan, Iraq. I thought they had Syria too, I guess not. They have Qatar, Yemen, Oman, Kuwait, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Burma, Malaysia, Papua New Guinea, Australia. I believe they have New Zealand. It's just not on the map. South Africa. Look at that. You can almost walk from Pretoria or Johannesburg. Oh, if there were just a kind of a link like right here and then all the way down here to like Singapore. This was obviously in France. I'm sorry I'm pausing this long. I mean, a lot of, people tend to, they click out before the end with the timeout duration, but I'm just really... So that's Belize, Jamaica, the Bahamas. They had the Bahamas. And Suriname, maybe? Guyana? And Canada, Australia.
And for just over 70 years. I hope you enjoyed this episode and thank you for watching.
I talked a lot. Great channel, short videos. Sometimes when it's this short, like a little over 3 minutes as the average video length, that's more difficult than like a 10-minute video because you got to be specific, and he does a great job. Definitely check out History Matters. Subscribe, like, go check them out. If you like my channel and you want to see more, like and subscribe. Click the bell button to see when my next video comes out. Thanks, you guys. See you next time.